We spent weeks diving deep into 3 heavy Euros: Galactic Cruise, Barrage, and Anachrony. And honestly, I'm shocked at how differently they handle worker placement and complexity. Like, Barrage is rated 4.11 on BGG weight, but it felt way more intuitive than Galactic Cruise at 3.99, despite being heavier.
Yeah, exactly. These are all worker placement games released between 2017 and 2025, but the experience of actually playing them is wildly different. All support 1 to 4 players, but the optimal player counts are completely different based on what we've discovered through multiple playthroughs.
And here's where it gets wild. Actual playtimes versus box estimates are a complete disconnect. Barrage says 60 to 120 minutes, but we've seen it run 3 to 4 hours at 4 players, including the teach. Galactic Cruise claims 90 to 150 minutes, but we're hitting 4 to 5 hours at 4 players with experienced players. Anachrony also says 60 to 120 minutes, but our 3-player sessions with teaching have stretched past 4 hours.
So basically, block out your entire afternoon. But the mechanics are where these games really diverge. When we played Barrage, we were managing water flow on the board, building dams, conduits, and powerhouses in the Alps to generate energy for contracts. The construction wheel is the centerpiece. You allocate your resources to build structures. Those resources lock into the wheel, but when it rotates, everything comes back to you. It's brilliant thematically because it actually simulates how construction projects free up resources over time.
And the water management creates this emergent gameplay that's genuinely novel. When I build a level 3 dam upstream and capture the water flow for my own energy production, that water exits through a completely different river basin and never reaches your infrastructure downstream. Every single build decision we made cascaded into changing the board state in unpredictable ways. There's no abstract point salad. The water flows, you block it, you redirect it, it physically affects everyone's strategy.
Galactic Cruise is the complete opposite mechanically. We're managing a space tourism company, building ships with cockpits, engines, and customizable segments to attract guests and launch cruises to exotic space destinations. There's worker placement with bumping. When we placed a worker where someone already had one, they got returned to their break room, but gained a funding bonus. Actually rewarding to get bumped sometimes. We built this network of developments on the board where cogs physically connected buildings, and if you had a development linking adjacent locations, you could access those neighboring actions.
But here's what became clear after playing it multiple times. After you launch a ship, you have almost no interaction with it until it comes back to port. You're not dealing with the customers, managing complications, nothing. The space cruise theme feels completely disconnected from the actual engine building puzzle you're solving. You're moving cogs around and managing ship construction pipelines, but you're never actually on the journey with the passengers.
Which is where Anachrony nails thematic integration in a way that surprised us. We're playing asymmetric factions in a post-apocalyptic future where time travel has been discovered through this resource called neutronium. Workers need exosuits, actual mechs to take any actions. That's elegant. But the killer mechanic is the time travel loan system. During warp phase, you can borrow resources from your future self by placing tiles on the timeline. But later, you must build power plants to focus back to that era and actually send those resources to the past.
And if you don't repay, during the paradox phase, whoever has the most warp tiles on each timeline rolls the die. You can gain 0 to 2 paradox tokens. Hit 3 paradoxes and you get an anomaly tile. It blocks building spots, kills workers, costs you 3 victory points. We saw this create genuine tension because you're constantly calculating whether borrowing now is worth the future risk. It creates this push your luck element that actually matters thematically.
Except that's exactly why I got frustrated with it in some sessions. When the paradox die went against me, entire games felt wasted. We played a session where I borrowed aggressively early, the die rolls crushed me with anomalies, and by era 4 I was just trying to salvage points. 3 hours of gameplay decided by dice variance felt rough in a supposedly strategic game.
Fair criticism. That dice element isn't for everyone. But comparing the 3 learning curves, Barrage was the cleanest to teach. The core loop is straightforward. Place workers, use the construction wheel to plan your structures, manage the water flow, fulfill contracts for points. Once we understood that resources come back when the wheel rotates, the strategy clicked immediately. We were making meaningful decisions by turn 2.
Agreed. Galactic Cruise had this longer ramp. The rulebook is substantial, and there's a spatial puzzle embedded in the development network system that took us a few plays to really optimize. Plus, there's this trap for new players. You can spend all your advertising getting passengers onto your ships, not realizing you still need advertising tokens for in-flight scoring once the ships launch. We made that mistake first game and felt blindsided.
Anachrony had the steepest learning curve by far. The rulebook is 51 pages, and you need to internalize multiple interconnected systems. The exosuit requirements, the time travel loan mechanics, the paradox die, the timeline advancement, the unique asymmetric building puzzles on each faction's player board. We had a rough first play where we realized mid-game we'd been managing our mech suits incorrectly. It was merciless. Bad planning decisions couldn't really be recovered from.
So if we're ranking ease of entry versus strategic depth, Barrage is most accessible despite the weight rating, Galactic Cruise has hidden complexity in that network optimization, and Anachrony demands you internalize everything up front. Now let's talk player counts, because this is critical and box estimates completely lie.
Barrage at 2 players felt too spacious. We played the standard map at 2, and there was just too much room. The water management felt less constrained, less interactive. With 3 players, though, suddenly every action felt pressured. With 4 players, the game exploded into this beautiful chaos where we were constantly under each other's feet, blocking water flows, fighting over dam placement. The 5-player expansion took that even further. More contention, more cutting off your opponent possibilities.
Galactic Cruise had the opposite problem. At 2 players, we finished in about an hour and a half. 3 players, maybe 2 to 2.5 hours, but 4 players? We played a 4-player session and hit just over 4 hours, including teach. Our experienced 4-player game ran 3 hours 50 minutes. There's real downtime at higher player counts because the worker placement and ship advancement phases create waiting periods.
Anachrony felt tightest at 3 players. We played it at 2, and there were just too many options, less competition pressure. 4 players made it tight, but extended it to 4+ hours, especially with one person doing heavy analysis paralysis. 3 players was the sweet spot. Tight competition, good balance, reasonable playtime once we knew the rules.
Strategic depth is where these games really show their teeth. When we played Barrage, the construction wheel timing became this critical decision point. Do we rotate the wheel now and free up resources, or do we keep building and lock more materials into the construction pipeline? We studied different nation strategies and discovered France is genuinely the strongest nation. France gets +3 energy from all your powerhouses, which means spamming bases and powerhouses becomes the dominant strategy. Other nations have to build more carefully.
And the water flow creates this chess-like positioning. If I know you're building a level 3 dam to process all the mountain water, I can build upstream and divert it before it reaches you. That's not blocking an action space. That's fundamentally disrupting your infrastructure investment. We had these moments where someone spent 3 rounds setting up a specific water flow, and we completely rerouted it with a single dam placement. Brutal, but brilliant.
Galactic Cruise has strategic depth too, but it all converges toward the same goal, building and launching ships. The development network positioning matters because those randomized action pairings each game change what links are valuable, but ultimately every strategy path leads to the same end state. You build ships, you do it in different orders with different passenger combos, but you're always building ships.
Anachrony's depth comes from that time travel loan calculation. Every warp tile you place is a bet on your future self. You're borrowing resources now, which costs water to warp in, and you must repay them later or suffer paradox penalties and anomaly tiles. Plus, you've got 4 factions, each with asymmetric dual-sided player boards, multiple leader options, and different evacuation conditions. That's 32 unique faction configurations we could explore.
The building puzzle on each faction's board is unique too. Each faction has a completely different layout for how buildings connect and unlock new actions. We played 2 factions and the spatial puzzle was completely different. One faction had buildings spreading horizontally, another had vertical dependencies. That asymmetry meant we couldn't just copy strategies from one faction to another.
Player interaction is massively different across these 3. Barrage is the most confrontational by far. When we played it, there were moments where someone would steal water from a neutral dam or block water flow to our infrastructure, and we'd all groan because our careful planning got disrupted. It's take that Euro gameplay, not for groups that hate conflict.
Galactic Cruise has moderate interaction. Worker bumping is gentle, you get a bonus for being bumped, and the development network blocks happen slowly as prime spots fill. But you're not directly destroying someone's engine like in Barrage. There's indirect competition through who gets what development placement, but it's less confrontational overall.
Anachrony has surprisingly low direct interaction, despite being worker placement. You're mostly building your own engine on your asymmetric board. You compete for super projects and timeline positions, but you're not constantly interfering with each other. It's more parallel play, where factions are pursuing different victory paths.
Component quality matters more than people think because it affects the whole experience. When we handled Galactic Cruise, the production was genuinely excellent. The game tray's organization system has removable trays that fit sleeved cards perfectly. The dual-layer player boards have recessed spaces that hold your components. The cardstock is thick linen finish. Ian O'Toole's artwork is stunning throughout. Everything felt premium, and the setup and teardown was actually quick because everything had a designated spot.
Barrage was disappointing on components given the price point. The main board edge started peeling during our first few plays. The cardboard quality is noticeably cheap. We could see punch-out remnants on cards. The construction wheels work functionally but don't fit snugly. The water droplets we received were flat on one side, which made them nearly impossible to pick up during gameplay. We ended up getting generic wooden water tokens as replacements.
The custom wooden pieces per faction are nice. Unique shapes for different factions looked good on the board, but it doesn't justify the component quality for a $90 game. At that price point, you expect better cardboard and functional water management pieces.
Anachrony delivered solid production. The cardboard is thick, the acrylic resource tokens are nice, and the tray organization is thoughtful, with spaces for buildings as they come off the board. We considered the optional exosuit miniatures, but at that additional cost, decided the cardboard tiles were sufficient. The rulebook is beautifully illustrated with extensive backstory, though.
Replayability varies dramatically. Barrage has variable powers per nation, randomized neutral dam placement, and random water drop positioning each round. Once we learned the optimal approaches for each nation, the strategy became clearer, but the emergent water flow interaction still created unique board states each game.
Galactic Cruise has massive setup variability. Action spaces shuffle during setup, so the worker placement layout is different each game. Different technology tiles, expert worker powers, company goals enter, agenda cards, and ship segment combos vary. We played it repeatedly and felt like we were exploring different puzzles each time, despite the core loop being identical.
Anachrony had the most variability we encountered. 4 factions, 2 board sides per faction, 2 leader options, 2 evacuation conditions per faction. That's 32 different starting configurations. Add in 78 different building tiles that get shuffled, random super projects, and a timeline that varies between 4 to 7 eras before impact, and we could play this game dozens of times before seeing the same combination twice.
Price and value matter when you're dropping money on a heavy euro. Galactic Cruise runs $99 to $150, depending on where you shop. The game trays system typically adds $15 to $20 in perceived value. If you care about production quality and table presence, the $110 to $120 range at normal retailers justifies the premium. We found the experience of owning such a well-organized game made setup and takedown pleasant rather than a chore.
Barrage at $90 gets you excellent gameplay but disappointing components. For gameplay per dollar, it's strong. You get dozens of plays before strategies feel optimized, but the component quality issues mean you're potentially spending another $20 to $30 on replacements for construction wheels and water tokens, bringing the true cost to $110 to $120 anyway.
Anachrony is the most expensive complete experience. The base game is $113, the expansion is $77, and if you want the exosuit miniatures, add more. We're talking $190 to $250 total. For dedicated heavy Euro players willing to explore 32 faction combinations and spend significant table time, the content justifies the investment, but it's not an impulse purchase.
Okay, final verdict. I'm going to take a stance here and defend it. Buy Barrage. Despite the component quality frustrations, it delivers the most interactive, memorable Euro gameplay at 3 to 4 players. When we played it, the water management created these moments where someone's carefully planned infrastructure got disrupted by smart opponent play. And those moments created stories. We still reference that time you blocked my water flow with that sneaky dam placement.
But the component quality is genuinely bad. For $90, water droplets shouldn't be unusable out of the box, and the game drags at 4 players without experienced players speeding it up. You're looking at 4+ hour sessions.
True, but gameplay overcomes that. The construction wheel mechanic is genuinely novel, and the cascading effects of every build decision create emergent gameplay that stays fresh across plays. Yes, buy replacement water tokens if needed, but the core experience is superior to the other two.
I'd argue for Galactic Cruise if you primarily play at 2 to 3 players, and budget allows it. The production quality justifies the premium, the spatial puzzle of the development network is engaging, and the playtime stays reasonable. At 2 players, we finished comfortably in 90 minutes. At 3 players, about 2 to 2.5 hours. The game doesn't drag at lower player counts.
But the theme is hollow. After you launch a ship, you're completely disconnected from it. You're not experiencing the journey, you're managing an abstract network puzzle with space flavor. If thematic immersion matters, that's a real weakness.
Fair point. But for players who prioritize elegant mechanics and beautiful components, Galactic Cruise delivers. The worker placement with bumping is smooth, the randomized action pairings create variability, and the game is pleasant to own and handle. Sometimes excellent execution of mechanics matters more than strong theme integration.
What about Anachrony? Where does that land for you?
Anachrony is for a very specific player. If you want deep theme integration where time travel genuinely drives the strategy, love asymmetric factions, can tolerate dice variants in a strategic game, and budget $190+ for the complete experience, it's phenomenal. We played multiple faction combinations and every one felt distinct. The time travel loan mechanic is genuinely thematic. You're not just borrowing resources, you're creating paradoxes and timeline distortions that actually matter.
But that paradox die is a deal breaker for a lot of players. We had sessions where bad die rolls cascaded into unrecoverable downturns. The game also demands significant upfront learning, 51 pages of rules, understanding multiple interconnected systems, asymmetric player boards. It's not a casual game.
So here's my guidance. Buy Barrage if you play 3 to 4 players, want confrontational interactive Euro gameplay where you can devastate opponent strategies, value gameplay over components, and don't mind sessions running to 4 hours. You get the best gameplay per dollar and memorable table moments.
Buy Galactic Cruise if production quality matters to you. You primarily play at 2 to 3 players, budget allows 110 to 150, and you prefer gentle interaction over take-that mechanics. You want an excellent worker placement spatial puzzle with beautiful components and reasonable playtime. The game trays system and Ian O'Toole art justify the premium.
For maximum replayability and deep thematic integration, buy Anachrony. If theme is paramount, you love asymmetric factions offering 32+ unique combinations. Your group enjoys push-your-luck dice mechanics in heavy Euros. You have players committed to learning 51 pages, and table space is available. You want depth that stays fresh for 50+ plays.
And critically, don't buy Barrage for 2 players without the dedicated dual map. It loses all the confrontation that makes it special. Don't buy Galactic Cruise expecting thematic immersion. It's abstract engine building with space flavor. Don't buy Anachrony if you hate luck determining outcomes in strategic games. That paradox die will infuriate you.
For us personally, Barrage edges out the other two. That water flow system creates emergent gameplay that's genuinely hard to find in modern Euros. The construction wheel is clever, and when you're fighting over dam placement and water routing at 3 to 4 players, the game comes alive. Yeah, buy replacement water tokens, but the core experience is special.
I'm still Team Galactic Cruise for the production value and spatial puzzle depth. Though I completely understand your position, the development network optimization when action pairings randomize each game creates genuine variability. But honestly, all three are quality-heavy Euros. You can't go wrong if you match the game to your group's preferences.
Just don't overpay. Galactic Cruise at $150 in high-demand markets is a ripoff when it's $99 elsewhere. Check multiple retailers before committing.
Excellent point. Price varies wildly depending on where you shop. These are investment purchases. Be smart about it. All right, that's our deep dive on these three heavy Euros. We've spent weeks analyzing how they actually play compared to what the boxes promise.
Bottom line, Barrage for confrontational interaction and best gameplay value, Galactic Cruise for premium production at lower player counts, Anachrony for thematic depth and maximum replayability if you've got the time and budget. Pick based on what matters to your group, not just BGG ratings.